The Beat Goes On. Tonight, our regular guests are Tony Amos, Barry Rushton, and Shane. And your host on The Beat Goes On, Gerard Smith.
Once again, a big welcome to The Beat Goes On. Tonight, our special guest is well-known broadcaster Willie Jackson, one of New Zealand's most popular talkback hosts. This time, we get to ask Willie the questions on life, his Maori heritage, and his World Cup predictions. Always got time on The Beat Goes On to light up a pipe and look back with Bob. Today on Face TV, it's World Peace Day, and we get the backstory from Will Ilola here. And finally, we get to chat to John Jackson, part of the senior trust management team, about the great investment opportunities in the retirement industry. But first up on The Beat Goes On.
He's out there in the rain. He's out there in the sunshine. He's out there looking to find the best in movies and music. Our resident guru on all things movies and music, Barry Rushton.
BJ, another week on The Beat Goes On.
Another week and another wonderful weekend at that club.
The Beat Goes On Dance Club. So just a reminder to our viewers that it's open every Friday and Saturday night, and we'll be opening more nights. But here's the poster. Have a look at the poster and get on down next weekend.
Well, Jared, as you
know,
when we first talked about this, I thought, I don't know if it's the kind of a club for me, but I have to tell you, I really am enjoying it,
Wow.
Which is unusual for a bloke like this.
Yeah.
Life,
a stay-at-home conservative. Whoa.
Following the politics, American politics, as much as I can. Yeah. Jared, the funny thing about life, it throws up, coincidences all the time.
It does.
And if that's the case, I am destined to go on a big hike somewhere in some glamorous trail.
Yeah.
I'm sure this is coming. I can feel it. The reason being is that a few weeks ago we talked about that movie called Walking the Camino.
You did, yep.
Well, there's another movie out called A Walk in the Woods. Now, I know. It's the new movie by Robert Redford, starring himself, obviously, and Nick Nolte, and also Emma Thompson. So there's some high power amongst that.
Yes.
But the reason I sort of wanted to see it is because it's a walk in the woods on a trail in the Appalachian Trail, which goes from Georgia all the way up to Maine on this east coast of America.
That's where the Clampetts came from, Barry.
Well, that's very good. But it's also very close to where I went to university in South Carolina.
Yeah, I've
and the
been
Appalachian,
there.
I know, the Appalachian Ranges were there. And so I wanted to sort of think, this could be quite interesting, you know what I mean? And so what I did is I went along and had a look at it. Now, what Robert Redford does is he plays a part of a successful book writer, but he's been living in England for about 20 years, married over there, came back, and has for the last 10 years been living in New Hampshire, and which is sort of halfway up and down. Yeah. And so he goes to this funeral. He's very a bit unsociable, this kind of, not meaning to be, but just rather have his own company.
Had enough of people.
Had enough. So he goes to this funeral and has this sort of not an epiphany so much, but sort of a desperation thinking that, I'm doing nothing much is happening, I'm just writing prefaces instead of nothing new's going on. So he decides when he gets home to go for a bit of a walk out in the woods himself, where he lives, and he comes across where this Appalachian Trail passes by, let's say Georgia that way, Maine that way,
Yeah.
And so you see the light go on, saying, maybe there's a chance to have an adventure, one last adventure before this life takes us over. He's about 50 or 60 by this stage, of course. And so he goes back and he gets out the old pup tank and all that. He's still quite fit, all the bits and pieces. And his wife, Emma Thompson, she doesn't want him to go, because she's gone on the net and she's pulled out all these stories about people being mauled on this trail and people being lost and people being, falling off cliffs. A million reasons why she didn't go. Why not to do it, you see? And so he starts calling his friends. She says, okay, if you are going to go, you're not going alone. So he gets on the phone and he tries to call half his mates and they think he's insane and mad and crazy. Finally the phone goes, there's another guy, Nick Nolte, playing the part called Cats.
Nick Nolte.
Yeah, great. And he didn't actually get phoned by Robert Redford, he had heard from another friend and he calls back and says, well, what about me? Lost friendship. And so it starts from here. You have a look at this.
I'm tired of life being all about ailments and funerals. I want to push myself.
You want to hike the Appalachian Trail?
2,000 miles. You have gone mad.
It's my old pup tent.
It's the perfect place for you to spend the night.
2,000 people a year try to do this. Less than 10% make it. Fit people in their 20s can't do it, Dad.
You'll need a rain cover, too.
Rain cover? Why?
To keep out the rain.
You are not doing this alone.
How would you like to join me for a little stroll?
Not in this lifetime. Next time, call me for something fun, like a colonoscopy.
Bryson, it's Cats.
Stephen?
Not Stephen Katz. You two ended up on each other's nerves in Europe.
That was 40 years ago.
I gotta eat every hour, otherwise I get these,
Seizures?
Seizures, that's right.
Try not to die, okay?
We go?
We go. What goes up must come down. What the hell happened to down?
John Muir once said, sometimes a man just has to get a loaf of bread and throw it into a sack and jump over the back fence.
You okay? Never better.
Barry, I think it looks great. I just listening to you, I like this
There's
movie.
something about, of course, the vistas are always
Robert
marvellous,
Redford,
you know. But what they do is they get themselves down to Georgia and off they go, you know. And it doesn't take them long to realise that maybe they've bitten off a bit more than they can chew.
Yeah.
You know, first of all, when he meets this Nick Nolte guy character, he's big and overweight and all this kind of stuff. And that's sort of interesting because Robert Redford came across this story back in about 2005, and when he was reading the book, he said he hadn't read a book for a long time that made him laugh so much. You know, it is an adventure comedy, no doubt about it. But he really wanted to do it with his old mate Paul Newman, you know, and this is with 2005 now. Now, he sort of laughed a bit because Paul Newman was a real health guru, you know, and he thought, well, how am I going to get this guy fat enough to play this character? And then, of course, you know, Paul Newman retired in 2007 and died in 2008. Yeah. So it sat on the back burner for a little while, you know, and so it's finally got going again, you know. But yes, it's a bit sort of, you know, it's a bit sort of implausible, it's a bit sort of predictable, you know, and so on and so forth. But it is a great little story about loss of a friendship and actually finding it again, you know. And it's a sort of like an odd couple movie, you know, like a new version of an odd couple kind of movie, you know. So well worth seeing. I give it about a 5.5, 6 out of 10. Good so one. Not way up there, but enjoyable enough. For sure. Walk in the Woods, it's called, just started.
Yeah, at all the familiar places?
All the familiar places, you'll find it a lot. Yeah. Hasn't been rated greatly, but there's, you know, some people have liked it, and I think you'd like it if you went and saw it.
Thank you, Barry, for going through the agony of watching that movie for us.
It wasn't an agony, it was good.
The joy of watching that movie.
The Appalachian Trail, wonderful. See you, mate, see you next week.
Thank you, Barry. Coming up next on The Beat Goes On, it's Sir Robert Jones. Bob has given up on the normal airlines and flown to Auckland in his brand new jet just to be on The Beat Goes On. It is with great pleasure we present Looking Back with Bob. Bob Jones, it's good to see you again. Jared. Good to see you. Thank you for the wonderful effort that you make. You fly up from Wellington to do The Beat Goes On. I really appreciate it. It's a wonderful...
Happy to do it.
I want to look back now and say that, I know I've said it before, that marvellous political party you started called the New Zealand Party, you did actually... you were the trigger for a lot of the change that Roger brought in. So looking back,
certainly softened up the market. And you've got to remember who our membership was. It was sort of middle professional New Zealand. They would seem like every lawyer in the country was a member. These people who realised that Muldoon was basically carrying out traditional Labour. Well, you could call it socialism. I don't. But
that's what they said. That's what they said.
Muldoon. We're doing a program about that. But we got locked into this thing that evolved, and of course the thinking people in the Labour office, like Roger and his coterie Bassett, a whole lot of them realised, look, what we stand for doesn't work. We're seeing it doesn't work. I mean, only 7 years before Rogernomics started, Roger was up in the House condemning Watties for profiteering, and when it was pointed out they're only making 1 cent profit per can, he said they're still profiteering, they can sell 10 for 9 cents, sort of thing. Now, I used to tease him about this. He said, yes, I said, but at least I saw the light, you know. I mean, they believed fervently in what they were advocating back then, and they saw it didn't work, as happened throughout the world. The most dramatic example being the collapse of the Soviet Union, when it just doesn't work, collective economics. But look at the British Labour Party now. They want to revert back to it. I mean, that'll be the end of them. It's quite extraordinary that they're that dumb. But they are that dumb. You know, it's now become a union-led rump in Britain, and it's a shame for the system. We work on a two-party system. This is the problem that Labour face here with the current leader, Andrew Little. And I know Andrew, who's a decent man, but he came out of the union movement, got the union vote to get the leadership, but he knows if he doesn't abandon that, he's never going to be Prime Minister. So we've got similar problems here, and it's important to have a strong opposition and a strong alternative government. But you've got to be sensible. If you're subscribing to a doctrine that's been well and truly proven to be wrong, you've got to reinvent yourself. The true left in New Zealand is now the Green Party. They are advocating traditional leftist stuff over and above that is their principal advocacy of green issues, which is you can justify that. But but they still try to fill the gap and attract the left.
All the old Reds have become Greens.
Well, it's true, unfortunately. They are advocating a lot of these things, and it is harming their cause. You know, it makes people fearful of them. But anyone that wants to push a conventional left line in a Western democracy ain't going to get anywhere anymore. Why? Number of reasons. Not just the fact it's been proven bad, but also because of the growth of the middle class. See, when I was young, the middle class was minuscule. That is, the professional and commercial classes. They were very small. Now they're the bulk of people. The bulk of people are now what we would conventionally call a middle class. They're complaining that life's tough. Well, it bloody well is when you want to have ensuite bedrooms, all ensuite bedrooms and that, so which of course they insist are basics of life. And so therefore it is a little bit tough, and a TV in each room and all that sort of thing, and 2 cars and whatnot, and change them every 2 years. That's why it's tough. You know, but the all Western democracies now, the major sector is a huge middle class. And again, there's no point tailoring a political movement to the residual.
Bob, we've got to finish, but one question I want to ask you. We talked about the Greens. Do you believe in global warming or climate change?
It's not what
I'm
I
a skeptic.
It counts. It's what the scientists say. It's a question of, is the human factor significant, and are they exaggerating the potential
Is it humans
dangers?
causing the problem? If there is a problem,
would say no. We've had hot
ups
periods,
and downs,
we've had cold ice ages, and all that. This is just another. And indeed, we know on what we do know that we've got more accurately recorded. And you've only got to look at, say, the last 1,000 years in Europe, and look at the significant changes in clothing. Warm ages, cold ages. We know the temperatures in Britain, our original country for most of us. There were periods in the last 1,000 years where they were very warm, where grape growing in the south, as today, was done. And then came a cool period, and we can see that by the clothing and by the various industries that failed, such as grape growing and so on. So this is natural to have hot periods and cold periods. Are we making it worse? That is the issue. They say we are. They're the experts. We should at least acknowledge they're probably right. And one of the nice answers, of course, which is good, is growing trees. I'm a huge fan of that. I could just stare at trees, you know, and I plant zillions of them. Yeah, we're always
good on
trees.
you.
Yeah.
Bob,
and then we get the whole I mean, I get so angry with farmers in this country, with the exception of Southland farmers. Why they're so bloody lazy. Trees are free, but they can't afford to buy them. Cut willow cut poplar stakes, shove them in the ground. Do we not see these bald hills in the North Island? God, they're bloody. And yet, they're all, as Wallace Rowling once said, capital gain farming. A treed farm is worth a lot more for aesthetic reasons than an untreed one. But most of them, Hawke's Bay's not so bad, most of them are so devoid of initiative, they don't plant them. And nature does it, it's free.
Bob, we've run out of time. We're going to see you next week.
Yep.
Looking back with Bob. There's some wonderful, wonderful history that we can talk about in New Zealand. Thank you, Bob. Coming up next on The Beat Goes On, we welcome the man behind World Peace Day in Oceania. September the 21st is the day chosen worldwide to celebrate the possibilities that one day the world will live in peace. Welcome, Will Ilolahia. That's a wonderful name, isn't it, Will? What does it mean, Ilolahia?
Actually, it was set by King Te Pō II to know, on my great-great-grandfather, as to know a lot.
To know a lot. This is Tongan, isn't it? The Tongan king?
That's Tongan king, yeah. Ilolahia. Ilo means to know, lahi means a lot.
You know a lot. Well, I tell you what you know a lot of, Will. You know a lot about our current promotion on Face TV called World Peace Day. And you're the man that's put it all together, and we'd like to thank you very much for bringing it to Face TV.
Gerard, I actually would like to thank you for having it on. Because
I'd like to thank you.
Yeah, because it's, without your help, we know, probably a lot of New Zealanders won't know that this is happening. So
what is the big world idea and how big is this idea of a World Peace Day, and when did it start, Will?
About 7 years ago, the global broadcast of www.peaceday.tv.
It was the first 7 years ago they started.
7 years it started, yep, and this is the second time that I've been involved and as executive producer for Oceania. And again, they've asked us to kick it off. And so we're kicking it off.
Because we're the first in the world, aren't we?
We're the first in the world.
The sun rises on us first, yeah.
And as you saw in the earlier show, you know, we had a really nice shot of the sunrise here in Auckland. And then basically we kick it off for 2 hours, and then we goes on to Philippines, and as you know, as people have seen it, gone to, and I think at the moment they just left China at the moment on your show now. So it goes for 24 hours and ends up in San Diego in America.
Isn't that wonderful? So many, many countries around the world all have a producer like you who make their country's contribution to this World Peace Day on television.
Yeah, there's 6 of us actually. You know, like I said, I'm Oceania, so there's 6 continental EPs. And one of the things that came out of our discussions with the other EPs was that they said that New Zealand seemed to have a good tolerance for living in a multicultural society. So we launched it earlier on today about having the International Choir, Peace Day Choir, and that was a real big event, over 50 odd different ethnicities here in Auckland.
Great. Let's go back to the beginning. 7 years ago, a lot of people would say to themselves, peace, it'll never happen in this world where it's sort of, you know, it's in our DNA, we're always going to go to war. But they said, no, let's do it anyway.
25th September actually is the 35th anniversary this year of the UN designating this as Peace Day.
Okay.
So us and television, we felt, as you've said, Gerard, we need to do something about it to spread the word and make sure that people do celebrate peace or look at peace itself. Because peace is also internal as it also is external. And for me personally, Gerard, you know, most people probably who do know me, I've come from an activist days.
You have, haven't you?
Yeah. And so, you know, I've still got battle scars to show, you know, but, you know, this is another way of changing people's mindsets.
Could we have a little bit of that history, Will? That's interesting. You were with
Polynesian Panthers, but also very instrumental in the getting Nelson Mandela freed through the anti-Springboks tour. You know, Bastion Point was arrested up there and took my case to the Privy Council in England and got off, and that's why we've got the nice green patch up there for all of us to enjoy. So yeah, those are the kind of things I've done. But that were...
And you got a few battle scars to prove it.
Yep.
And yet here you are today promoting World Peace Day. That's a wonderful... a man that was once a fighter is now a lover. How does that happen?
Well, I've always been a lover, Gerard, but, you know, and the love of our community is probably one way to say it. And in the last century, I would say that a lot of my social action were more on a violent, physical way, whereas I feel this millennium probably giving the peace way to see whether that be more effective. And we certainly need it, Gerard, these days. Peace, you know, whether it be domestic violence here in New Zealand or the West Papua people getting done over by the Indonesian area in West Papua, or just the wars that our soldiers are committed.
And we watch television at night and we see the Syrian migrants streaming across Europe, all because one man back in Syria decides that 43 years in power is not enough.
Exactly, so, mate. Yeah.
I mean, he's certainly caused some heartbreak, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, you'd think after 43 years as the number one person, you know, his father was also in charge, but their party, that, you know, they want to cling on to that power. And look at the mess it's caused by one man being greedy for power.
Yes, power certainly corrupts.
Yeah, exactly.
And whereas peace doesn't.
Yeah. And
so, you know, I think, Gerard, you know, what we've done, you know, Face TV and that here in New Zealand, hopefully it'll make a difference.
Yeah.
And, you know, interesting you said about that Syrian thing, because what thing has come out of our broadcasts, and this is first up exclusive, that's announced I'm making to you now, Gerard, the peace choir that we're doing now, that we did showed earlier, we're going to do something over Christmas to actually raise money and also programs to welcome the Syrian refugees that are coming in January.
Wow.
So Face TV and ourselves were the first ones to...
We'll be there. We'll be there.
Thanks, John.
Oh, good one. Will, thank you very much for choosing Face. I know we've talked about this before, but no, it's a great honour to be part of World Peace Day, to be able to be on it. And what's your proudest moment this year about putting together World Peace Day?
Being with Face TV, and perhaps you and I, Gerard, could say peace today.
Peace to the world. John Lennon, eat your heart out, eh, Will?
Yeah, imagine.
Okay, thanks. Once again, a big thanks to Will for joining us on The Beat Goes On. And before we talk to our special guest, don't forget you are never too old to boogie. The Beat Goes On now has a swanky brand new nightclub for baby boomers to play. Come along and join in the fun every Friday and Saturday night. All details are at www.thebeatgoeson.co.nz. And right now it's time for that time when we talk to our special guest. Tonight our special guest is well-known broadcaster Willie Jackson. One of New Zealand's most popular talkback hosts. This time we get to ask Willie the questions on life, his Maori heritage, and of course his World Cup predictions. Willie Jackson, welcome to The Beat Goes On.
Good to meet you there, Gerard.
What an honour.
Oh, how would get carried away?
An honour. Willie Jackson, in our humble studio, Willie.
Lovely.
You've got a fascinating life, Willie. Did you ever think you'd be an entertainer, a social commentator? When you were a boy growing up in Pororua, was it Pororua?
That's in Pororua, yeah.
Did you ever think that you'd get to where you are today, Willie?
Well, I don't think I was planning in too much when I was in Pororua when I was 7 or 8. But when I, as I was going through school, I always did want to be a sort of journalist. So that was one of my ambitions when I was a kid. I sort of got there in a strange sort of way because. Didn't do too well at school and sort of almost got there by default. And I'm not actually a qualified journalist, but broadcasting I've been doing for many years now.
But that wonderful gift, I just honour it, the gift of the gab. By gosh, Willie, can you come back with a quick fire response and the questions? I watch you on Mariah on Sunday morning and I'm always, wow, Willie's just... You're fantastic at asking questions. So where did that come from? Was it Mum and Dad had that, do you think?
Yeah, I think a lot of it probably came from Mum and Dad. And, we were always... I was lucky with my upbringing. My father was a huge influence. Then later on in life, when I came to Auckland, I was involved in the union movement. Then I worked with my Uncle Sid Jackson. You'd remember Uncle Sid, who was probably New Zealand's most well-known Māori activist, Uncle Sid. So there's sort of quite a bit of that, probably in the Jackson whānau. We're not known for being too quiet. And your
mum's got a great reputation.
My mum, June Jackson, she's been the... she's been a leader in her own right, Mum. The longest-serving parole board member, 20 years. Tough work. Yeah. And she's been one heck of a role model for our people and for women. And she ended up getting a damehood, actually, for her work, even though I'm not really into damehoods or anything. But I'm still proud of Mum and, all that influence. Mum set up our urban Māori movement in South Auckland and so John Tamahere and I followed in her and a lot of our other older people's footsteps.
Was there a tea table or a dinner table at night where you sat around and you listened to Sid and you listened to people and all you heard was political talk? Did that happen?
No, for me, Dad, as I said, Dad was a big influence in that area. He always wanted us to do well because he came from a strong Māori-speaking background and upbringing on the East Coast, Ngāti Pro. And he wanted his kids to do well, so he really pushed us in terms of, to really give things a great crack, and to never accept no. I'll never forget my father's lines. He'd say, and he always said, "Take every opportunity, son," because he was a watersider. He was on the Auckland Wharf over here, and he was on the Wellington Wharf, and he said, never turn away opportunities. Because the watersiders were strong unionists, Gerard, very strong unionists. So he passed a lot of that on to me, and I was a young union official. I was a sort of full-time union official when I was 21.
Where's the union movement today? Is it going to survive?
I'm not sure now, because I don't think it's at all very strong today. That's my view on it. I think they made a lot of mistakes in the union movement, but then things changed with the whole CTU. And I watched what happened, and I was very disappointed with what happened with the movement. I was a union official for 17 years, and then I went to Parliament in the late 90s. But I felt that the union movement made some major mistakes, and one of them was signing up with the Labour Party. Because I think that, not that I haven't supported the Labour Party, I have, and I still support a lot of the principles of the Labour Party. But the unions so got into bed with the Labour Party that they lost their soul and they lost their independence. Never forget that. And I saw that in Parliament when I went to Parliament with the Alliance Party and Matt McCartan and Lyda Hari in the late 90s, and I watched unionists come into the Labour Party and they lost the passion, they lost their soul, they lost their drive. And whereas the union movement today, it's still there, and I'll support different unions. I certainly supported the Watersiders here, but it's nowhere near what it used to be, and they have to reshape and restructure, I think, for survival. This not young woman, this woman Helen Kelly, who's sadly very sick.
Yes, with cancer, isn't it?
Very. But I think she's been a great advocate. Yeah. Great advocate.
Most people don't want to stand up too high because they'll get their heads chopped off. But Willie Jackson's never been afraid of standing up and saying things.
That it can be very hard going against the tide.
Yeah.
It's easy to wimp out, I suppose. But I don't. I was talking about it on Talkback Radio today. And I don't sort of think that I've, I don't believe I've said anything too radical through the years. I believe in partnership in this country.
Yeah. But you always say it with humour, don't you?
Absolutely. I don't, I'm not a person who wants to kick Pākehā out of this country. Why would I? I have a Pākehā background myself, but I believe in true partnership. I believe that Māori language should be compulsory. I believe that we need to bring treaty education into the schools. You and the language. You and I should be talking Māori now. Wouldn't that be fabulous? You go overseas to France. You go. People speak 2-3 languages. I don't think that. I don't think any of that is particularly radical.
Yeah. I'm so proud when the haka's sung. And
exactly.
Honestly, without our Maori heritage, we'd have nothing.
That's right, and that's why I think the haka is. I sent my son to King's College. I brought him up speaking Māori. He's 24 now, but I brought him up speaking Māori till he was 10. Never really spoke English to him. Then I thought, right, you've got all that Māori language now. We'll send you to the best college around. So we sent him to King's College, and when he went to King's College, it was tough for him.
Yeah.
But we were proud of him because we threw him into the deep end and he came out of it. And then I watched these kids at King's College embrace things like the haka.
Yeah, they loved it.
Pākehā, they love it. Shows our culture can be shared by everyone.
Let's look at the 12-year-old Willie Jackson and your son. Prejudice against Maori. What was the difference with you at 12 and your boy at King's College?
Well, I think
we made progress? That's what I'm saying.
So are we making progress? Is that the question in terms of Māori and Pākehā? It's slow, but what we have got in place is look. This is not Palestine or Israel. You know, I do think relations here are pretty good at a personal level, but there's been protests through the years, but you've never really seen any violent Māori protests.
No,
it's good protests.
Yeah.
There's never really been any violence, other than they get a bit crackpot at Waitangi sometimes. But
that's only once a year.
Yeah, that's right. But you watch. I went on a land march. I went on the. We went on the hikoi and all that, and you're asking where we are. Well, I think we are better off.
Can we measure the progress?
Yeah, well, I think, when I was 12, we never had the Māori language bill. We never had Māori TV.
No.
We didn't have Māori radio.
So what did you feel about being a Māori then?
I only knew about being Māori when I grew up because my parents were, we were in a very Māori area. So, you're brought up Māori, but what I did find out when I was young, you knew there were things that were missing, and then our people fought for different things like the language, like our culture, and are things better than when I was at 12? I think so, absolutely. I mean, you'd be wrong to say otherwise. Is there still institutional racism? Of course, but things are breaking down as people are getting more educated.
Yeah.
And as we've had a treaty settlement process, which I think has been good, as the National Party has embraced more things Māori. You never thought that the sort of radical Māori people like, as they were perceived, like Tariana Tudia and Peter Sharples could form relationships with John Key. No one ever thought that those sort of things could happen in the old days.
I thought it was wonderful.
Wasn't it a good thing?
Yeah,
And wasn't it successful?
Yes,
to see Tariana Tudia, former protester, Peter Sharples, all of a sudden in there. And I think that's good for the nation.
That ingrained thinking that Maori should always be with Labour.
That's right.
It was holding them back.
That's right. And I don't have a problem with our people working with National. I always keep saying that you've got to work with whoever's in power.
Exactly.
And let's not alienate ourselves.
Yeah.
If you go down that track, you have to look at the Green experience, and they've never been in government. They've never been in government, and I think they're re-looking at that. Key,
they are, aren't they?
Key, that's right, absolutely. Look at Key. Key is exceptional. Not that I've ever voted National, but I admire, and probably never will. But I can see that he's opened up the door to the relationship, and I just say well done for us, because we've been to just hitch ourselves as being part of Labor in the past is just nonsense.
Who's going to win the World Cup? Not far away.
Yeah, well, I've been saying, funny thing you say that, but I've been saying if Daniel Carter plays like he did at Eden Park against Australia, we'll win easily.
Great.
If he plays like he played in Sydney, we'll be in big trouble. Remember, how he played in Australia?
Yeah, it was awful, wasn't it?
Yeah, we won very good. And the sad part of it, of course, is they just about always play well at Eden Park, don't they?
Yeah.
So I am worried. I would have taken Sapuanga.
Yeah.
Sapuanga, because I thought he was fabulous, and you don't get a bigger test than Ellis Park in South Africa, So I'm worried.
Yeah,
I'm worried. I hope, because he's such a good guy, Daniel Carter.
I forgot about him. Gosh.
Sapuanga played tremendous, didn't he?
I thought so.
And, but you don't get Eden Park every week at the World Cup, so let's keep our fingers crossed. If Daniel plays like he did that evening at Eden Park, we're home and host.
Great. Now, Willie, time's just gone by. Wonderful to talk to you, but you've got this new, it's on TV1?
Oh, well, it's just a one program.
We want to tell our viewers about it.
The Intrepid Journey people
Yep.
who they produced Intrepid Journeys, they've got this news show which is called DNA, DNA Detectives.
Which is really like, who do you think you are?
Based on the English show, Who Do You Think You Are?
Yeah.
So they took people like myself, Kirk Torrance, I don't know if you know Kirk Torrance, Siobhan Ruakere, others, overseas to find out our roots.
And what happened?
And so,
any skeletons in the
well, I
closet?
can't tell you which countries I went to, but because they said, oh, you're proudly Māori, but are you interested in your Pākehā side?
Yeah.
I said, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, Willie Jackson is hardly the most Māori of names. So I went away to 4 countries over 11 days. I hope it's very interesting. As I said, it's called DNA Detectives, and there's and they're half-hour shows. But these, I think they're TV1 8:30, and it's all starting in the next few weeks, actually, from next month.
A day in the life of Willie. Let's tell our viewers that you've got a wonderful radio program every day on Radio Live, and Alison Moore.
Yes,
she's your companion, replacing the one and only Mr. Tamaheri.
John Tamaheri.
Do you miss John?
Well, not really, because I see John all the time, because him and I run Māori organisations. I run the South Auckland one, Manukau Urban Māori Authority. He runs the Waiparato Trust. So I just saw...
see him all the time?
All the time, all the time. It's never ending. It's been like that.
But some of those wonderful battles you used to have
So, but him and I went to Parliament together. We worked for our people together before that, and we work together now. The 7 years him and I had on Talkback Radio were 7 of the best years of my... in terms of broadcasting, they were probably the best 7 years I ever did.
I spent many a happy hour listening to you two guys. You were absolutely brilliant.
We had a lot of laughs, a lot of fun, and it was very sad how it all ended. You never had 2 Māori... sort of staunch shows before, who could actually make fun of themselves too. And then we got Māori, and I always thought we had Māori and Pākehā behind us. We had a heap of Pākehā support. Because we used to get stuck into each other and laugh like anything. You got to have humour, Gerard. You ain't got humour, you ain't got anything.
Exactly. Now, is there still time for Willie Jackson Prime Minister?
Well, I had my little time in politics, and it was a good time.
You don't want to get back into it again?
No, that time's probably past me.
That's
but I enjoyed it while I was there. I'm fascinated with politics still. I do political commentary for television and radio.
And I'm a big watcher of you every Sunday morning, viewers. Every Sunday morning, Willie on Marai. Love it.
Yeah.
You're a busy man. We had to book you back in 2010.
Yeah.
There was this one little opening on the 21st of September in 2015.
No, it's good to come along, Jared, just to support your show. Well done to you. I mean, I've watched you on and off through the years.
300 shows.
Yes,
yes,
I've
well
watched
over.
you through the years, and I thought, gee, what a neat show. And,
thank you, Willie. Could you sign this, please?
These are the sort of shows that should be on mainstream.
Yeah.
You know, just people having a bit of a
Jack, yep.
You know,
Unfortunately, we don't fit the criteria of the powers that be.
That's right. So, congratulations to you.
Willie, you're coming back.
Thank you very much.
You have to come back.
Good to meet you.
Keep us company.
Good to see
Keep
you.
us on the straight and narrow. Thanks, Willie. Thank you, Willie. Coming up next on The Beat Goes On, we talk to John Jackson from Senior Trust. John is here to tell us about the retirement industry. It's never been in better shape. Business is booming and presents some great investment opportunities.
John Jackson, welcome to The Beat Goes On. Thank you, Jared. Pleasure to be here. Now, baby boomers. Wow, what a great generation.
Yes.
And you're really, really, really involved with baby boomers, and that's why you're on the show today, John, because you've got Senior Trust. Correct.
A company called Senior Trust, and you're doing, you're talking about the future of us baby boomers, aren't
That's
you?
right.
In the sense that, I'm 67, and excuse me, John, but many of our baby boomers are going to be looking at retirement villages, etc., in the future. Has to be, with the that big bulge of baby boomers coming through, it has to be one of the biggest growing markets in New Zealand, retirement village construction. And you're into that, aren't you?
Absolutely, yes.
What about you telling us how you're involved?
Yeah, it'd be a pleasure, Jared. Yes, 2016 is a watershed year for the retirement village industry because that's when the first of the baby boomers, post-1946, hit the age of 70. And that, of course, is why all the listed retirement villages are spending so much effort and money to acquire as much land as they can, because the growth we've seen in the industry over the past 2 decades is nothing to what we're going to see in the future.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just at the cusp of it.
The first of the baby boomers, they're 70.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's big, yeah.
Did we ever think that was going to happen? You're a classic baby boomer, aren't you,
That's
John?
right.
So how old are you, John?
I've just turned 60, so
Turned 60?
yes, I can see myself in a retirement village in the foreseeable future.
Where did it
bit of
all-
work to do, but beforehand, of course. Yeah.
Where did it all... where'd that time go, John? Where did
Exactly,
it go?
yes.
And where were you born, John?
I'm originally hailed from Wellington.
Wellington?
Yes, and like a lot of people have worked my way north, yes.
You drifted north, as they say.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, tell us about Senior Trust.
Okay. All right. Well, Senior Trust is a specialist investor in retirement villages. We back proven operators who've got well-run villages in good locations. So we're there to participate in this huge growth in the industry. We estimate that there's a $7 billion spend over the next 2 decades. The country will need another 140 major retirement villages.
Let's stop there. 140. The
Yes.
country will need another 140.
Yep.
Somebody's got to pay for them, don't they?
That's right.
Yes. So that's what Senior Trust does.
We're part of that mix. Yeah. Sure, the banks will do some, and obviously the operators will inject their own capital, but Senior Trust has a role to play in backing proven operators in good locations.
What's a proven operator?
A proven operator is somebody who's been in the industry a long time and has a
Good track record.
successful track record. The industry celebrated its 25th year of formal participation in the form of the Retirement Village Association. Interestingly, most of the people we back, most of the operators we back, were there at the
start,
day one.
Wow.
Yeah. And they're the sort of people we know will deliver.
Now, this is an investment. We're asking our baby boomer viewers out there, or anyone watching the program, that Senior Trust is a company that you can make an investment in. That money, of course, will then go on to the retirement villages.
Yes.
A lot of people in New Zealand, they've been scarred. They're a little bit scared of. Remember Blue Chip and all those companies?
Yes. How can we forget?
They really hurt a lot of people.
Yes.
But there's a huge difference between what you're doing
That's
and
right.
what those other companies are doing.
Yeah.
So let's look at the big
Okay.
differences.
All right.
Retirement villages aren't like the sexy penthouses
No.
apartments market.
No, they're not. They're
scared everybody.
Yeah,
you know.
yes, they're not speculative. They're built over a long period of time. The basic formula is you sell some off the plan, build them, get the residents settled in, and then you sell again and build some more.
Yeah.
And the attraction as an investor is that I can look at these retirement villages and know there's a 30-year steady cash flow stream to service our year. I can't find, even Bob Jones, as wise as he is and his experience in the commercial property market, couldn't find you an investment with a 30-year
stable.
with a 30-year cash flow.
Wow, that's great. So if an investor's looking to, what type of money can you earn by investing in a senior trust?
Yeah, we look to give our investors a steady income return. We look to pay at least half as much again as they get on a comparable bank deposit. It's part of the equation. We only lend to 60% of the value of those retirement villages.
Now, John, when you have a look at all the different villages you've been involved with, it's not just Auckland, you've got villages all over the country.
Absolutely.
So
we've invested in 15 villages throughout the country.
Yeah.
From deep in the far south, down aspiring in Wanaka, to the Bay of Islands.
Well, look, let's go over it again. Those facts are important. That you're saying with the baby boomers coming through, they're going to need at least 140 new retirement villages.
That's right. Yeah.
And even the existing ones are going to be growing as well.
They're not going to mushroom overnight.
No.
What you'll do is see an intensification of what's happened in the past. That you'll steadily see villages grow throughout major metropolitan areas.
If you're interested in looking at this further, you don't have to make any decision tonight, but they need to talk to you, don't they?
Absolutely.
They need to get a brochure and they need to have discussions with you.
Yes.
You're available. We need a telephone. A telephone number for you.
Okay.
So what's the best number to get you on?
The best number, and it's manned 24/7.
Yep.
Is 0800 609 600.
609 6. That's pretty simple, isn't it?
That's
609 600. And if you forget that number, of course, you can go to your website. Now, let's have a look at the website. It's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Senior Trust.
Yeah, .co.nz.
So on the website, John, of course, you'll have a list of the villages that you've already invested in.
That's right.
And so people can look and...
Absolutely.
A lot of us will know the villages anyway, won't they?
Yeah, you will. Yeah. That's the great thing about the investing in the retirement village industry. It is totally open. Every retirement village has to register its audited financials at the company's office. Any prospective investor can go in and drill into the company's office and look at the financial accounts of the villages where we put their money. To me, as an investor, I love that 30-year cash flow stream. It's
That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Nice you can't beat it. Exactly, Jared.
Nice and steady. Yeah. John, we're going to see you more and more on The Beat Goes On.
Thank you, Jared.
It's good to talk to you.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay. Thanks, John. Thank you, John. Now, John has asked me to tell you this, that the minimum subscription is $100. And applications for investment will only be accepted on the form supplied with the investment statement, which must be read before applying. The investment statement for the latest unit trust offering, dated 14th of September 2015, managed by Senior Trust Management Limited, can be downloaded from the website www.seniortrust.co.nz or to order your copy, phone 0800 609 600. The 6% per annum before tax targeted distribution rate is not a fixed or guaranteed rate of return and may vary.
He's a singer, and he's a man that can shake, rattle and roll. And he takes us down memory lane week after week with Where Are They Now? And the Song of the Week. To finish the show, it's our pop encyclopedia, Shane.
The one and only, most fabulous Shane. Hello, Shane.
I'm just recovering after a great night. Energetic dancing and boogie.
We had some fun at the club, didn't we?
Oh, a lot of fun, yeah. And I believe some people didn't get out till all hours of the morning, but I'm not saying anything. It wasn't me.
We won't go down this.
Yeah, and it was a great night. I really enjoyed the company, and there was lots of nice people there, and there was just rubbing shoulders with lots of people.
Yeah, it's a good club. It's open every Friday and Saturday night, Baby Boomers.
Yes,
it's a club for the 40 plus, and you're never too old to boogie.
No, we know that.
Yeah, never too old to boogie, so please visit the club and have a great time.
And Gerard Smith, your host, he'll be there.
I'll be there.
Doing his thing. You might even shout your drink sometime.
We have got a great special.
You did buy me a drink.
Any baby boomer who arrives with one of their grandparents will get free drinks all night.
What are the odds? I'm taking my mum down next week.
Any baby boomer, no, she's your mother. If you can arrive with one of your grandparents, you're free drinks all night.
He's big-hearted, isn't he? God, that's going to be... yeah.
My gossip, what's yours, Shane?
Not a lot. Yeah, I'm working at Teatatu this week. Teatatu RSA with Shane and Shazam Band. Got to get the plugs in while I can. It's going to be a great night. There's no door charge. You just get in there and boogie.
Anyway, Shane, all that pales into insignificance when we think about it compared to
Song of the Week. And it's a beauty, but you're going to have to get your handkerchiefs out and your tissues.
It's a tale of woe,
It's a tale of woe. It's a sad, sad tale of a guy called Tim Harden.
Who I loved. I thought he was wonderful.
Yes, and I think he was so underrated. And I mean, his songs were fantastic. We all know and love his songs. Everyone knows If I Were a Carpenter, which just happens to be our Song of the Week.
Oh, loved it.
Beautiful.
If I Were a Carpenter.
His rendition is still the best. I mean, Bobby Darin did a close second on that. And then it was called The Four Tops and everybody. Then he had a song called Reason to Believe.
There was something in his voice.
It was a cry for help somewhere. And I can understand why, the poor guy. It was a tragic tale. He was born in Eugene, which is in Oregon, in the US of A. And he was born there, he grew up there, did the normal thing, childhood, but he reckons his childhood was like being in prison. He couldn't stand it, he couldn't wait to get out. He had very oppressive parents. That's what he always talked about anyway. And it's hard to know because, I mean, didn't we all feel like we were in prison when we were up into our teens, you know? Sometimes you just want to get out there.
Get your hair cut, get a proper job.
Go and get a job, you know. Shut that noise up. That's the other one.
Shut that noise
Turn
up.
it down. So anyway, he had this impressive childhood that he thought he had anyway. And he left home quite early, and he dropped out of school, at high school, at 18. That was it. He didn't even get any exams. He just dropped right out and said, I'm off. And he went and joined the Marines. He thought, I'll go and see the world.
I'll join the Navy to see the world.
In his teens, he'd got into heroin. Very sad story. He'd already tried the heroin thing, and he was, you know, take it or leave it sort of thing. He was in a situation where he tried it. When he got to Vietnam, he actually endorsed, and he was away.
It was cheap, wasn't it?
It was cheap in Vietnam. There's plenty of drugs, and it took him, and of course, a very addictive man. He took to it, and so from then on, he was an addict the rest of his life. He fought it. The demons were there for the rest of his life. He had a huge fight in his hands. 1961, he's back, and he moves to New York, and he gets down into Greenwich Village and all the trendy folk scene that all those wonderful singers came from, you know, in the early 60s.
Joan Baez,
even Bob Dylan, all those guys. They're all down there giving it a go in the Greenwich Village and the coffee bars and things, Coffee Society. But he surfaces in Boston in 1963, 64 there. And a guy called Eric Jacobson, who I know, he's actually just produced Chris Isaak's latest album.
Oh, yeah.
And he's still going strong, and he's a great producer. And he saw the promise that Tim Harden had, and he thought, no, I'm going to give this guy a break, you know. So he gets him a little deal with Columbia Records, actually, little deal. He gets in there and he starts recording the album, but he reckons it was hell. The sessions were hell. They were a nightmare because by this time he was into marijuana as well as the heroin and everything else. And he said the whole thing was like a haze, and getting him to work and turn up, and it was hopeless. But they managed to get an album out and several tracks, got down to this, and Columbia turned around and said, nah, forget it. So he didn't lose faith in Tim Harden, though, this Eric Jacobson. He still hung in there, and he came back.
Isn't it? Yeah.
1965, he turns around and says, look, I'm going to give you another go because you're writing beautiful songs. I know there's a man in there with the soul, you know, and you've got a beautiful voice, but you've got to keep straight. Oh, yeah, okay. He didn't really keep straight.
You never took that advice, did you, Shane?
No one does. I'm a young man. I'm bulletproof. Yeah. Tragic story continues, and but he actually gets in the studio and makes this beautiful album, Tim Harden 1. I remember buying it, and I carried that everywhere around the world with me. Always when it was on vinyl, and we played records.
I loved him too. It was
wonderful. He had the beautiful song in there called Misty Roses. You look to me like misty roses.
Oh, thank you, Shane.
Yeah, exactly. Rose-tinted glasses here. And all his other songs, And If I Were a Carpenter was on it, and so on. Bobby Darin picked up on this. Bobby Darin turned into a huge fan of Tim Hardin. And this is just when Bobby Darin had sick of the rock and roll and sick of the, the suit and the tie and the whole bit. He threw away the toupee and said, I'm going to be me, and I'm going to do my thing, after his little episode in the caravan with his guitar. So he goes out and becomes a bit of a folk singer, and he records If I Was a Carpenter, or If I Were a Carpenter. And, of course, it was a huge hit for Bobby Darin. It was his new image thing, which gave him some money and it got him back into the thing. Tim Hardin's successful. Wow. Great. And Misty Roses was covered by a lot of people. Another song called Don't Make Promises, that was covered by a lot of people. So
suddenly he's got money.
Suddenly he's got money in his pocket. He can feed his drug habit without any problems. He hasn't got a problem anymore. He can feed his drug habit. So sad. It's such a sad story, really, because all this beautiful talent. And he made another album straight after it, Tim Hardin 2. What else do you call it? And that was successful too. But by this time, it was becoming, whoops, he's getting out there and it's getting loose. Things are falling apart. And he goes to England in 1968. He plays at the Albert Hall. This is how bad it got. He fired the band in the Albert Hall on stage in his concert. He fired the band while he was on stage. Then he sat down and he fell asleep on the stage. And the audience was sitting there. This is a great concert. A man falling asleep. So that was it. They decided, this guy needs help. He's really in trouble. So while he's in the UK, they put him into a place for a bit of therapy, and they called it sleep therapy then. And what they did, they gave you barbiturates and things while you're coming off the heroin. You take these barbiturates. But what happens in his case, he's such an addictive man, he becomes out, he's addicted to the barbiturates as well now. Now, one of the silly things he does in his stupor, he needs money for drugs and so on. He's spent so much money. He sells all the rights to his wonderful songs. Sells them to his manager. Now, the manager saw him coming, didn't he? This is a rip-off. And he gets a briefcase full of cash and goes, there you go. Signs the songs away, and they walked away with all the royalties and everything else from his songs. Now, this is when he decides to go back to the States. He's been ripped off and everything else, and he's got his money. And the only reason he went to England the second time was the fact that he could get his drugs there, because he wanted to feed himself off the heroin, and he couldn't afford to keep paying for it. So in England, he went on the National Health, registered as an addict.
And got methadone.
And they got methadone. And methadone is the drug they give you, by prescription. So you're not, and they still do it here in New Zealand. You go there, knock on the door, and the doctor says, every day you have to go to the doctor and get your prescription. So he did that, and he was getting free methadone. And I saw him on stage there at Finsbury Park at the Rainbow Theatre, and he was support act to Carole King, wonderful Carole King. And it was a very sad thing, because I was a huge fan of, I'm going to see Tim Hardin tonight.
Yeah, wow.
I couldn't hear a damn thing. He was up there on the stage, had a piano, and he played a song on the piano. Then he'd play his acoustic and do his thing. The crowd all yacked away through the whole performance, and it was like noise. There was, 1,000 people in that audience.
Just talking.
Just chatting away and having a beer and all this and talking. Poor old Tim Hardin's up there, stoned off his face, going from one thing to the other and singing his songs. No chat or anything, Nothing was happening. Carole King commanded, the audience's attention. But poor old Tim was up there mumbling around, banging around. And I thought, this is Tim Hardin, one of my idols. What's wrong? Something I didn't realise he was in such trouble at the time. But there you go, very sad. I told you, are you still getting the tissues out? Anyway, so he goes back to America to be near his son, Damien. He's starting to miss his family. Meanwhile, he got married in between somewhere and to a TV star. And they had a son, Damien. He was living in Woodstock with Bob Dylan and the band in 1969, all that sort of stuff. He even played Woodstock. And he got so stoned, they had to delay his performance in Woodstock for the day. He was supposed to be on during the day. He didn't go on till somewhere about 1 o'clock in the morning. And he did about 4 or 5 song set because he was so stoned. He did one song on its own, If I Were a Carpenter, and the band played about 3 or 4. But they said it was so difficult to keep keep in time with him because they didn't know where he was going next because he was all over the place. And so we never got into the movie of the Woodstock thing either. It was a terrible time for him.
So basically downhill from 1969.
Yeah, really. It was at a very rapid rate. It took 10 years and he was over.
Well, he died 1980, did he?
1980 he died.
Wow.
So it is 1980. And he's written these songs. He's doing a new album with a top producer, and it's going to be great. And just before they go in the studio, he overdoses on morphine and heroin. And that was the end of his career. 1980. Sob. What a
tale of
shocking woe. And when he returned to America, I mean, his friends, no one recognised him. He looked such a mess, you know. He was a pretty good-looking guy when he started out. And by 1980, at the age of 39, he'd lost his hair, was way overweight, ballooned up, you know, and but a great performer. They reckon when he was on. He was fantastic.
Shane, I thought your story was the worst I'd ever heard, but in fact...
it's a lot worse than I am.
We've now found someone that had a worse journey than you did, Shane.
My journey's not too bad, actually. After that, traumatic, wasn't it?
So, Shane, I can surmise that tonight's Song of the Week has got to be...
From 1966, written by the man himself, Mr. Tim Harden, If I Were a Carpenter.
If I were a carpenter, you were a lady, would you marry me anyway? Would you have my baby? If a tinker were my trade, would you still find me carrying the pots I made, following behind me? Save my love for sorrow, save my love for lonely. I've given you my tomorrow to love you only. If I work my hands in wood, would you still love me? You answer me quickly, Tim, I could. How could you love me? If I were a miller at a mill wheel grinding, would you miss your colored blouse, your soft shoes shining? Save my love from loneliness, save my love for sorrow. I've given you my loneliness, give me yours tomorrow.
What a magnificent song,
What
Shane.
a song.
What a
That
song.
man.
If I were a
And what a
carpenter.
great performance. He was unique. There's nothing like him, and I love seeing that clip. That's when he was in his prime.
Thank you, Shane. I
beautiful.
really enjoyed that. And the
So
story?
did I. And the story, well, I was going to say, did you know? Do you mind? Did you know?
No,
Well,
I didn't,
did you
but
know? When he wrote that song and various other, all the early stuff,
So
the
the
first
great
couple of
stuff, yeah,
albums,
yeah.
he was flatting with the comedian Lenny Bruce. That was his flatmate. Now
What a place to be in history.
Yeah, what a place to be, because the two of them, he died in 1965 from an overdose of morphine. And so he was obviously into the drugs as well. So the two of them got on like a house on fire, you know. What do you got tonight? Well, I got a bit of this, you got a bit of that. Oh, a bit of morphine, bit of heroin. I shouldn't joke, but it's not a funny thing. Don't take drugs, anybody. It's crazy. And so Lenny Bruce died in 1965. 15 years later, he died of the same thing, and very sad. But yeah, that's where he wrote all the songs with Lenny Bruce, in Lenny Bruce's flat with him.
Do you think things would have gone better if you'd written a song called If I Was a Sausage?
If I was a sausage. I tell you what, I'd take an axe to you.
Sterling job, old sausage. Sterling job.
I don't
old
mind
sausage.
that.
You have done a wonderful job, and a great hero of mine too, musically. So
Yeah,
thank you, Shane.
fantastic.
And it's left to me to say these immortal words. Shane, you've done it again.
You were a lady, would you marry me anyway? Would you have my baby? Would you marry me anyway? Would you have my baby?